This is a linked list manipulation problem. We have the following two lists that we start with, and we want to manipulate them to end up with this second picture here. So the goal is to move nodes by changing links and not actually create any new nodes. So the first step is to identify the different references that we'll have to change. So for example, here we can see that list 1 references a node with the value 1 in it, and it does in the final picture as well. So this particular reference will not have to change. On the other hand, this node's .next field references a node with the value 2 in it, whereas in the second picture it references a node with the value 4 in it. So this link is going to have to change. Similarly here, the node with a 2 in it is linked to a node with a 3 in it, whereas here it's linked to a node with a 5 in it. So this reference has to change. List 2, again, it's not the same reference in these two pictures, so this one has to change. And it looks like this one also has to change. So we've got a lot of references to change. Now the second question is, which ones can we safely change? So for example, if I modify what list1.next references, well, I'm going to lose the end of the list, so that's not going to work. In general, the references that I can easily change are ones that are currently null, or sometimes ones that are reference nodes that don't have a next node. But in this case, it's looking like I don't have a lot of great choices to make here. This node here seems like one that I could move, but I'd have to have list2 reference it, and if I change this particular reference, then I lose the 4 and 5 nodes. So in this case, it looks like I'm kind of stuck. So this is a situation where I want to create a temporary list node variable. So I would say something like list node temp equals list 2. Now this is not creating a new node. Notice I don't have a call on new, and so all I'm doing is I'm creating a new variable that references an existing node. So in this case, I'm copying this arrow, and so temp references the same node as list2 does. So what this now allows me to do is I can now break this reference and change it. So I'd like list2 to reference the 3 here, and I still have temp holding on to the 4 and the 5. So that piece of code will look like list2 equals, so now I have to figure out how to, what code is going to lead us to this node that has a 3 in it, and that's list1 dot next. Okay, so I want list1 dot next. So again, we can think about that list1.next.next being this particular arrow. So the one that's referencing the 3 node. We want list2 to be exactly this arrow going to the node that has a 3 in it. And so this is the code that we want to have here. And so what that now means is I have temp referencing 4 and the 5, and list2 is no longer referencing that. Instead, I have list2 referencing this 3 node here, but I have not broken this link here. Now I can safely break this link and disconnect the 3 node from the 1 and the 2. So I can say list1. So what I want to do, my goal is to, again, break this reference here. I notice that in my final picture, I actually do want to connect something to the 2 node. So I want to think about how I could attach this node here to the 5 node. So what I want to do there is copy the reference that brings me from the 4 to the 5 into this .next field here. So that means I want list1 .next, which is this box, list1 .next, to be equal to temp .next. So I want to, again, have this reference here be copied into here. So list1.next equals, what did I say, temp .next. Okay, so I think I should take a second to redraw the lists here because this is starting to get a little bit confused. Oh, maybe I'll wait until the next step actually. So this is pretty good. I have 1, 2, 5 that are linked together. Then list 2 references the 3, which then ends at null, which is fine. This link here is broken because, of course, the this list1.next can only have one reference. Can only be one reference. And I have this 4 node, which is referenced by temp, and it's still connected to the 5. So good, so I'm making good progress. I'm done with list 2, but now I just have to make sure that I get this 4 here in the right spot. So it looks like I'm in a position to do so. So my goal is going to be to make list1.next reference this 4 node. But if I do that right away, then I'm going to lose the 2 and the 5. So something that would be strategic to do would be to instead first update this reference and make the node with a 4 in it have a .next field that brings us to the 2 node. So to do that, I'm going to say temp.next. So again, that's this box here. I don't want it to hold this reference anymore. Instead, I want to break this and I want to replace it with a reference to the node that has a 2 in it. So this node with a 2 in it is, one way to reach it is by saying list1.next. Okay, so again, I want to use this reference here and copy it into this .next field. So temp.next equals list1.next. Great. So now I have this 4 in the right spot. The final step is going to be to connect the 1 to the 4. And so that's going to be list1.next is equal to temp. And so that means list1.next is not going to reference the 2 node. Instead, it's going to go to this 4 node. So there's a lot of scribbling here, so we should double check to make sure we got things right. So we start with list 1, which references a node with a 1 in it. And then if we follow the .next, we see a node with a 4 in it. Right there. Then again, following its .next, we have a node with a 2 in it. And then finally, we have a node with a 5 in it that ends in null. And then we can see here with list 2, we just are referencing the 3. So that looks like it's exactly what we wanted. So again, the important steps were identifying which references we had to change, then trying to find which references were safe to change immediately. We saw that there were, in fact, no references safe to change right off the bat, and so that suggested we had to introduce a temporary reference. Again, not creating a new node, just creating a reference to an existing node. That allowed us to hold on to the 4 and the 5 that were in list 2 and update what list 2 actually referenced. Then from there, we were looking for, again, references that were safe to change at each step and trying to make progress towards our final picture.